Hello, the internet, and welcome back once again to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, the Gen X Problem with the Drinking Show. I am Laura Lavoie, and I am joined, as always, by Bill Dystopian Future Perkins, who has opinions.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. We're back after 2 weeks of vacation, so.
Yeah. How was that?
It was Michigan-y.
Yeah.
No, it was actually nice. We had a nice long road trip, and it was fun, and we went to some cool places, and it took 2 weeks, and now we're home.
Well, that's cool.
That is cool.
I had some adventures, but they weren't of the good fun kind over the last 2 weeks.
What were your adventures?
So, like right after the last time I saw you, that evening actually, I had to run to Charlotte because my kid was in the hospital.
Oh no!
Yeah, he got a viral encephalitis apparently.
Oh my goodness!
Which is a weird thing, and apparently what it does is it causes swelling of the brain, and it makes you start acting kind of a fool, you know. And yeah, he was not quite himself for a couple of days.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, when I got there in the middle of the night, he was in the emergency room, and they had, you know, like armed guards that wanted to fight with him and stuff. And I got there and I was like, hey, I got this. I'll take care of it, you know. So I wrestled him for a couple of days every time he would get rowdy. And finally, I don't know. I guess finally it kind of just had to run its course. I mean, they pumped him full of steroids and antibiotics and whatnot, but because it was basically a viral thing, they said the doctors were like finally like, you know, it probably is just, it's like any other virus. It's got to run its course, and a week from now he'll be fine. And you know, anyway, after a couple of days, he finally like, you know, was like cognizant of where he was and who he was, and he was like, what in the heck? Like, what's going on? Why am I here? What happened? What day is it? You know?
Right?
So, you know, I'm sure that was a weird experience for him, and especially bad because it probably, like, you know, it stole one of the last weeks of his summer before college from him, and a last week of chance to see his friends before everybody left town, and you know, so that sucked. And then I guess he wrecked his car Saturday night.
Oh my goodness! Can't catch a break.
No, he's pretty disastered, I guess, hopefully for college. I'm hoping, you know. So anyway, it's just been a mess the last couple weeks here. So, you know, but you know, at the end of the day, he's okay. He's healthy, I guess. He's fine. So he'll be all right.
That's good. That's good. Yes, as long as he is okay and recovering from the infection and uninjured from the car accident.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, and hey, to get all this out of the way before starting college. So
that's what I said. That's honestly what I said. You know, I'm a big fan of the idea of pre-disastered after reading The World According to Garp, right? And I've always thought that was a neat concept. For those at home who aren't familiar, they're looking at buying this house, you know, that they're going to raise their family in, and when they're looking at the house, like the day they're looking at the house, a biplane crashes into the top story of the house, and the main character turns to the realtor and says, "We'll take it." and the idea was that this is probably the worst thing that will ever happen in this house, you know. So at this point, it's like, what are the odds, you know, of some other terrible thing happening?
Right. Yeah, no, I've always had this, there have been various adventures I've been on in my life where something happened at the very beginning of it that led me to say, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? And inevitably after that thing happened, like this disaster at the beginning of any major adventure, the rest of it would go smoothly and it would be fine.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking, I mean, and that's like odds really is that's the way it will go, is that, once you get the horrible thing out of the way, and I mean, honestly, or seriously, odds wise, because viral encephalitis apparently only happens to like 200,000 people in the world every year or something like that. Like it's so basically what it is it's like you caught a cold at a bad time and your body just was like, I don't have the wherewithal to fight this cold right now. And so it gets out of hand, right? So it's just some random virus like a rhinovirus or a norovirus or something like that normally you'd have a runny nose or you'd poop or whatever.
Right.
But this particular time it gets out of hand, right? For whatever reason. And it jumps to your central nervous system and plays with that and makes you go a little nuts for a minute.
Dang.
So, yeah. And they were like, yeah, this is a freak thing. And we, what are you going to do? And it's probably because of all the trying to run around and milk the last days of summer for everything it was worth, you kind of get run down and all that. So
right.
Hopefully he just, has learned to take it easy and get some rest. Hopefully.
Absolutely. Geez. Well, all right then. So I suppose now is a fine time to talk about what we're drinking.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that. What are you drinking?
Well, I have all Michigan beers in honor of our recent trip to Michigan. So I'm starting out with a Bell's Official. It's their hazy IPA. And then I have, after that, a New Holland Little Piglet Session IPA. I couldn't pass that up, having previously owned a cat named Piglet. So
Sure.
I needed to have it. It's pretty tasty. And then the other one that I've got here is Tropical Diabolical from North Peak Brewing. Which I've had North Peak beers a bunch, and I've always liked them. This one is their fruit IPA. It's very tropical. It's very strong. I mean, it's not strong in like alcohol. It's just the flavor is really, it's a lot. And it is alcohol because it's diabolical. The alcohol by volume is 6.66%.
That must have took some working to get exactly that.
Either that or they're allowed to fudge the numbers within a certain percentage.
Yeah, you're allowed to go a little bit this way or that way. Yeah, maybe. Funny enough, I'm also drinking a Michigan beer today. I am drinking the Founders Mas Agave Classica, which is a lime gose, I guess. Which I didn't. I'm not. I said this to Laura before we started. I'm not really enjoying it. Apparently, I was in the mood for this beer and this type of beer on Saturday when I was at the bottle shop, and I purchased this beer and these other beers. And then as soon as I popped this one open and started drinking it, I was like, I'm not really feeling this vibe today. And then I looked at what the rest I had, and they're all lime goses. And I'm like, well, shit.
Apparently past you did you today no favors.
Exactly. Yes. I don't know what like I said, on Saturday, I guess it seemed like a good idea, but I've slept since then and I'm not feeling it now. So I'm going to probably milk this one for the rest of the show. And I don't think I'm going to open any more of them because I'm just not feeling this flavor right now. And that's all I have is this flavor. So, yeah.
So here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, I really wish I could grab that Modelo out of the refrigerator.
It's an option. So we're doing a kind of weird and special kind of show this week because normally we don't get through a topic and we'll just say we do it some other time and then we almost never do. This time, because we were going to be off for 2 weeks and we didn't have a topic for this week, and we didn't finish this topic 3 weeks ago, that we decided let's just pick up where we left off. So this is Tropes Part 2, the sequel.
Right.
Which I thought was also appropriate for talking about tropes because sequels and prequels and all that there are often overused tropes in both of those genres.
Right. Yeah. And we should have began the show with like previously on Bill Has Opinions.
Well, here's our opportunity, right? So this is normally where our monologue goes, and we've already done a monologue. So
we talked about it. Yeah. So
let's refresh people what we're talking about.
In case you weren't here last time and you need to go back and rewatch that episode if you find any of these things pertinent to your interests. Okay, you have the list, not me.
I do. So what we already talked about, we talked about Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and several, examples therein. Sure. We talked about Save the Plot, Have a Baby, or Add a Baby, Add a Child. We talked about Characters You Don't See, which I don't know that was like an official trope. We just decided it was. Like the Home Improvement and Wilson situation.
Right, and Mrs.
Howard's mom.
Yeah.
Yes. Then we talked about Small Town with a Secret, which I know is one of your favorites.
Yep.
We talked about regular schmuck caught up in intrigue.
Yeah.
And Hitman with the Heart of Gold.
Okay. Brilliant. I got a spinoff on regular schmuck caught up in intrigue, and that's the what do you want to call it? It's like the regular schmuck, but then regular schmuck catches some sort of a break, right? Maybe he gets imbibed with superpowers. Maybe he finds a CIA top secret weapon or some shit like that, and suddenly he is thrust into herodom because of that. So it's like the same thing, but it's like a subset, right? Because I would say like Shazam was kind of that, like the regular schmuck, getting superpower. I mean, he's a kid, but he's a regular kid, right? And then suddenly he's a superpowered adult man. And there was one movie that had this Jackie Chan movie where he had like a magical tuxedo that made him be able to fight. Do you remember this?
Yes, I remember that.
Not magical. It was like a CIA secret ops thing or something, right? And he was like a person, but somehow or another he wound up with this suit, and it made him be able to fight, and I want to say, God, I thought there was a Mr. Bean, not Mr. Bean, but a Rowan Atkins thing that was kind of like this too, maybe. But I digress. Maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I get a lot of these things mixed up.
Well, and we talked about in the original show, we talked about under regular schmuck gets caught up in intrigue. We mentioned Chuck, but in truth, Chuck, which of course also stars Zachary Levi, like Shazam. But in truth, Chuck actually fits into this idea because he accidentally gets a supercomputer downloaded into his brain.
Yeah, right. And that's how he gets wrapped up in the end. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's sort of a subset of the regular schmuck thing. It's like a more specific, because sometimes you're just a regular schmuck and it's like circumstance or the person you're hanging out with that gets you pulled into the thing, right?
Right.
And or somebody drops, the attache on you or whatever the fuck, and now the people think you're in on it or whatever, and so you have to just like go along with it. But then sometimes it's this thing where you like somehow or another you suddenly acquire a power or a piece of equipment or something, and it makes you like now you're part of the whole thing. Anyway, I watch a lot of those kinds of movies, so it's kind of funny that stuff, honestly, you could almost make the argument that an alien landing in your barn also is sort of like that, right? Like small kid who captures an alien, that's also sort of that same plot in a way. It's like a twist on it, right?
Right.
It's regular kids, and then this thing falls out of the sky, and now you're like wrapped up in intrigue, right? Because you've got an alien to hide, and you got to the other aliens before the government
or the government. But so Well, and I think I think this is why we have so many tropes. It's why we get caught up in like the idea of tropes, because there are only so many stories, and most of them have been told already.
Right. And so we just find a new flavor for that same story.
Exactly. And Margaret Atwood, one of my all-time favorite authors, she says, the two greatest resources for her, I mean, just she gladly admits she steals stuff, is the Bible and mythology. Mm-hmm. Just like you can find any story in those two places.
I would say the Bible, mythology, and Shakespeare. If you can steal from all three of those all day long. Also, they're all, the copyrights run out on them. So.
I imagine there's a large subset of people that believe that there really wasn't a copyright on the Bible.
So you can just borrow all you want from that shit,
Do whatever you want with that.
The character names and change them up,
Well, there's so many, like, it's been like through all of those things, there's so many things that are just little things. Like you can take little bits and pieces out of them and like make a patchwork quilt out of them and put something all together new out. And people will never even know that that's what you did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people will never know, but English professors will know, and they'll write whole papers and present at conferences about it for ages.
That's true. That's true. I remember the first time I learned that there was, I can't remember what university it was. It might have been California, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer seminar at some university, because talk about all the themes of Buffy and, I mean, you can do all of that.
Okay, speaking of Buffy, because that reminded me, I was reminded when you were recapping, this is a spinoff on Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but dangerous otherworldly fella. He's sort of the male counterpoint to Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And that was several boyfriends on Buffy, right? So
yeah,
she dated she was a vampire slayer, but dated multiple vampires. And then, of course, the best example of that, the best and worst example of that is Twilight.
Yep. And then you've always got like werewolf boyfriends and vampire boyfriends and, I don't know, demon boyfriends and what have you. And I guess they're attractive because they're a little bit dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
These guys they're a spinoff of Biker Boyfriend in a way or whatever, right? Yeah.
Right. The bad boy. I mean, you can even do that without it being supernatural, right? In Gilmore Girls, Rory Gilmore dated Jess, and he was the bad kid. He was so I mean, that's exactly the opposite. That's what, the bad boy trope that girls just want to date a bad boy.
Right. And the bad boy in his way, like I said, kind of the Manic Pixie Dream Boy, right? Like, because your parents are like, no, you shouldn't be with that guy, and and all this.
Exactly, exactly.
You bring something else to the table that shakes your world up, So yeah.
So and in fact, this all ties in with the first trope that I want to discuss. So let's take a quick break here.
Okay. I'm
going to spin the wheel of sponsors, or unpaid sponsors. I'm just going to randomly click on one of our things here. What do I got? Oh, I got Found Sound in Ferndale, Michigan, which I was just there. Well, I didn't actually end up in Found Sound, but
you didn't go by there to see your brother.
I did not. But so if you're in Ferndale, Michigan, and you want to check out some new and used records and CDs and all of the above, visit Found Sound. It's there aren't a lot of actual record stores around anymore, so you should go to them when you can.
Yeah, and there's that new Billie Eilish LP out that you can purchase.
Yes, you sure can if you really want to.
I was in a record store over the last week, and that's what I was trying to remember what I saw that was new. And I was like, there was a Billie Eilish album, I believe. I don't know.
Oh, all right then.
They're putting that on vinyl.
You do you?
It's crazy the shit they put out on vinyl to me now. Like, because I'm like, I can get like, there's a new Radiohead album, put that on vinyl, sure, because that crowd will buy it. But when I see like Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, I'm like, really?
Yeah, no, the kids are really into vinyl these days. Man, the kids love them some vinyl.
I know. You know what? My son's got a vinyl collection too. So, and I believe he probably owns a Taylor Swift album. In addition to a Radiohead album, he likes both.
I'm all for that. For a long time, I thought this is completely sidetracked. Oh, and I should have done our other one when we were talking about our beers, but we'll get to that. I'm sure there will be more Midwestern talk. But just real quick here. So I had always understood like you're supposed to pick a genre of music and that's what you listen to. Like as a kid, that's how I understood the world worked, you know?
When we were kids, it was that way. And then, and I think I know where you're going with this because somewhere around about the time we hit our senior year of high school-ish, genres kind of became meaningless, right? Like suddenly everything was straddling 2 or 3 genres, and then since then it's gotten even worse because now you've got all these collaborations, and you've got like, hey, I'm a rap artist, but I'm gonna make something with Daft Punk, or hey, this jazz person's gonna sit in with this country band, and so none of it means anything anymore, and it drives me crazy when I go to record stores actually because I would rather them just take all the fucking records, dump them on the floor, and put them in alphabetical order.
Than have genres.
Then have me have to walk through the store and flip through A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then start over again. Because some of the stuff I'm like, I don't really know what genre this shit is, right? Like, because if it straddles it, or I mean, and because people make up these fucking genres, and then every 2 years they come up with some new damn thing. They're like, no, well, that's not really death metal. That's that's black metal instead. And I'm like, okay. And then so they have like a separate section for that. And so if you're looking for Goat Maiden, that might be in the wrong section looking for that, right?
Right. Well, and I also feel like I missed out on a lot of music because I had this narrow view, like especially as a kid, that I can't listen to that because that's not what I listen to. Sure. So I feel like I missed out on some things at some point.
For sure. I totally did that. And I've kind of recapped on it since then. I definitely like a couple years ago kind of went back and revisited all the R&B from the 90s that I wasn't listening to because during the 90s I was like I like alternative rock, it's what I'm into. And then after I got over the whole meaninglessness of genres, I got into R&B in like the early 2000s, and I was like, well, this is good. If this is good, then maybe some of the shit that I avoided was good. And then I went back and I was like, oh yeah, a lot of this was really good, so but then I feel like a schmuck kind of, because you're going back and listening to it and like, ooh, and it might be a song from like when I was in high school, and then your kids are like, hey, did you like this in high school? And you're like truthfully, no, I didn't hear it in high school.
No, but I like it now.
Yeah, I like it now, but I didn't listen to this then, so it's weird.
It's weird. All right, so back to the subject at hand. We have properly sidetracked that. Okay, so this one fits into what you were kind of saying about the bad boy, but specifically the supernatural bad boy. This is one of my favorite my favorite tropes of a genre. The supernatural being that helps a cop or detective without any legal ramifications.
Right.
I'm always so baffled by this. The most popular example right now is Lucifer, which is just pulpy. Like it's the lowest common denominator show. It's about sexy people doing like crime of the week. Like that's really all it is.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this guy who is Lucifer, and it's not a secret. He's said it from the beginning. He's just allowed to go on ride-alongs with the cop who doesn't even believe that he is Lucifer.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you're the devil, or if you're a hitman, I noticed this in movies too. All that speaking to go back to the hitman with a heart.
Hitman with a heart, yes.
In all of those, at some point in the thing, someone asks them, "What do you do for a living?" And they usually are fucking straight out blunt about what they do for a living. And the person goes, yeah, get out of here. You're crazy. You're so crazy. Because that's what happens. You tell people, I murder people for a living. Like
exactly.
no one will believe you if you say that. So it's funny because you just get to say it, and it's an interesting like conversation starter, but nobody really believes it. And then at some point in the film later on, when they see you, pull the gun out and screw the silencer on it, they're like, "Oh fuck, what?"
Yeah, I didn't believe you. No, so Lucifer, and then the other one, as we talked about Buffy, was Angel, right? When Angel left Buffy, when he spun off onto his own show, they wanted to give David Boreanaz his own vehicle, and he moved to Los Angeles, and then randomly started a vampire detective agency, but somehow managed to constantly work with the actual police officer.
Yeah.
And nobody seemed to care. Like, this can't be legally possible.
Isn't there something else like this too? Like where there's like a magician or a
Mentalist.
The Mentalist like that.
The Mentalist did it. And so that's a little less supernatural, but it's the same.
And the reboot of Sleepy Hollow thing, right? Like,
yes, where suddenly it was just a random dude who woke from the dead, Ichabod Crane, who suddenly was sexy, right?
Right.
And then he's just going along with the cop friend, like.
Yeah, they acquire a cop friend for some reason, and then they just do whatever the fuck they want because they got a cop friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite TV shows is an example of this. It's not so much supernatural. It's more like a comedy version of The Mentalist, is Psych. And I think Psych is just I'm actually on the second time around watching it because Matt and I started watching it during the pandemic because I wanted something light and fun to watch because there's a pandemic going on.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know. And so it's the same thing. He's not supernatural. He's just pretending to be a psychic. But for some reason, the Santa Barbara Police Department keeps having him work with them. Like, there's no way they would put away any of these criminals. Like, all of the evidence that they find couldn't be admissible.
You know who else the cops will allow to step in and solve murder mysteries? People who write murder mysteries.
Yeah.
If you're a mystery author, you can just walk in and be like, you know who I think did it? And they're like, oh, do tell.
Exactly right. Obviously, the single best example of that, right, is Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
But that isn't the only one. And there are other ones too. I guess the more that I think about it, like, so in the My Mom Watched This genre, there was also like Father Dowling Mysteries, where for some reason a priest was also helping with.
Oh, if you want to go deep diving on priests who solve mysteries, there was also a show called Cadfile that was a BBC thing. It was about a monk back in like the 1600s who solved mysteries.
Exactly.
Again, why? Like, why is this your business? Also, like, I'm sort of surprised there were mysteries. I mean, or was everything not a mystery? Like the monk should have been solving the mystery of like, where does the sun go in the evening? And that's
many jokes.
Why does the milk go bad? That kind of thing, right? Like,
right.
Like everything was a fucking mystery back then. But I wouldn't have thought crime was so convoluted.
Right. One would think. All right. Also, viewer, please don't forget to chime in. We like it when you talk to us because it makes us feel like we're not just talking to ourselves. Right. And I see you there. So hi, viewer, and please say something. We love you. All right. So here's another one. This one actually ties into Save the Plot, Have a Baby.
Okay.
Or Add a Child. Magically aging babies.
Yeah. So
there are two different versions of this. There's the actual supernatural, this baby has aged, and now suddenly the baby is, an adult person.
Right.
Halfway through a season. They were a baby.
Yeah. I remember that if you watch the show V, do you remember that?
Oh yes. That is.
And there was a hybrid alien human baby on V, and then I think in season 2 she was a teenager because they decided that would be more exciting, and they could make her. They could make her a love interest for somebody or something that way.
Exactly.
That's a funny one, but then Okay, so sorry, you're going to talk more.
Well, no, because one that's exactly like that, except kind of worse, was a show called The 4400, where it was like a bunch of people had been abducted and then they were returned all of a sudden, and there was like all this mystery about where they came from. And then one had a baby, and it was a baby, and then like next thing you know, it was an adult, and like they explained it away like, oh, she's an alien, she magically aged.
Yeah, alien babies do that.
Yeah, and they did it on Angel too.
And you know what? Because vampire babies also do that.
Yes.
And yeah, that happened in Twilight also, I think.
Yes.
Aged quickly or something. And
well, because she also wrote herself into a corner. Let's talk about bad writing for a second. Stephenie Meyers wrote herself into a corner when she decided to make a newborn baby the love interest of an adult man. This is not okay. This is never okay.
This is when you started going, whoa, 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 hey, this is getting out of hand.
Yeah, no, I think that was, and I realized at that point that I should have said that like 4 books earlier.
Yeah, I remember one time when my wife told me she was reading the Sookie Stackhouse books, and
yes,
was finally like, hey, this is getting a little silly, and I was like, oh, really?
Yes. No, I agree because I read all of those.
How many more? Because it was basically like Harry Potter, except like sexy. You know,
right?
Like they had every kind of being that's ever existed in lore or mythology or anything. Like
and they'd make some stuff up too. Like for a while, they were werepanthers.
Yeah, they were just making up all kind of crazy shit. And it was just goofy, and so it was. I think when the fairies became a real big deal.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's getting kind of weird. And I'm like, oh, is it? Is it getting weird?
As it turns out, it started that way. Hey, I guilted everybody into talking, so now we're starting conversations.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right.
Talk about the reckless time travel.
Reckless time travel is a great one and not one we had on our list because it can be done in all kinds of ways. You get the classic Doctor Who situation, or you get like Loki.
Mm-hmm.
So there's because you can do anything with it.
Yeah. Star Trek used time travel a lot. I think actually it was whenever the writers were bored or didn't have anything new to do this week, they'd be like, we're doing a time travel episode. Let's go back and do a thing. They're going to be, they're going to fight Hitler. They're going to
right.
Like that, right? And then on the newer on like Deep Space Nine, they decided, hey, I know, we'll time travel. They're going to go back and they're going to be on the old Star Trek. Yeah.
Although that's a great episode.
It is, but I do think sometimes it's when you look back on the history of every time there's a time travel episode in Star Trek, it usually means, I don't know, it's like it's almost like filler kind of,
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, actually I agree. The Tribbles one from Deep Space Nine, it's I view it as a meta episode, like you would see like Supernatural did that a lot, Psych does that a lot, where they would just throw in like a random, it's meant to be funny and it's not really meant to have any implication on the story whatsoever.
Right.
So that's how I view that one.
Okay, that's fair.
So, and one though I do have to mention, did you ever watch Future Man?
Yeah, I did. I watched the first season. I couldn't get back into it after it went away, because I kind of felt like it ended, and then they sort of brought it back, and I was like, I'm not.
They did. It gets funnier toward the end. There is definitely a whole situation. I mean, there was already time travel in, but then it got weirder time travel, and then there were time travel cops, and it actually got pretty freaking funny by the end of it.
Okay, well, I might need to go back and revisit it. I really enjoyed the first season. I just kind of felt like it sort of tied up, and then it came back, and I was sort of weirded out. Although there's an interesting trope to me. I don't know if it's really a trope. Maybe it's more synchronous. Yeah, it's synchronicity maybe. But fucking Ed Begley Jr. winds up being the dad in more fucking shows that I end up watching. Like I'll watch a show, and at some point, I'll be watching it, and like somewhere around season 3, all of a sudden, Ed Begley Jr. is like dating somebody's elderly mom or something. He's Ed Begley Jr. again. He's like in everything, right?
Yes. Well, Future Man, obviously. Did you ever watch Lady Dynamite?
No, I did not watch.
Well, he plays her dad in Lady Dynamite.
He was the stepdad in 6 Feet Under. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I felt like for a minute there, I was seeing him in every fucking thing. Though I would like flip the channel and bam, there's Ed Begley Jr. And I was like, this guy's in every damn thing.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he was in at least one, if not multiple episodes of Portlandia as himself.
Okay, I can see that because
basically to make fun of that.
People, and also people used to make fun of him because he was one of the early adopters of an electric car or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, and he's like super vegetarian or vegan or whatever. Like he's very environmental.
So he was like an early that used to be a joke, kind of in the same way that like Nick Nolte was like a joke about brain trauma, like. So he used to pop up as like on The Simpsons and shit as a joke. But that was actually before I really knew who he was. Like it wasn't until the last like decade when he became ubiquitous on every fucking TV program.
We also have another viewer suggestion, and I agree with this. And we did not put this on our list. This is such an overused.
Oh god, yeah. She's got glasses and a ponytail, and
right.
My favorite thing is when the popular jock guys get together and make a bet that one of them has to take her to prom. And then all she does is take the ponytail down and does this, and then she
takes off her glasses.
And, oh, hey, look, she's actually turns out, all along she was like an 8. She was just wearing glasses and had her head back.
Which, as someone who wears glasses, I find that incredibly insulting. I haven't worn glasses since I was 8. I look the same, no matter what. And it also implies that if you wear glasses, you are instantly ugly, which,
It's weird because but then there's the other thing is like when you put glasses on, you suddenly look smarter. Like
right.
In real life there are dumbasses walking around who just have bad eyesight, right?
Exactly.
I guess the idea is because maybe when glasses first became a thing, the only people who cared about them were people who needed to read, right? Like
they were the smart people,
right? Ben Franklin was like, "Fuck, I got to deal with this. I need to go read. I got shit to invent,"
So I had to mention this later, and one of the reasons I wanted to mention the show, I have to give a shout out to the show. It is my favorite TV show of all time. Part of the reason I was going to mention it later, if you are interested in tropes, this show does them all and on purpose. It's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and there is, as you know, and there's a whole episode in the final season where they do a whole parody on like romantic comedies. Okay. And they do the, take off glasses, get a makeover, and suddenly you're hot now. And it's hilarious.
But yeah, that does happen, and it's always funny to me.
Right. And yes, Superman proved long ago that glasses are a perfect disguise. It's actually true because I definitely know people who do not recognize people without glasses.
Oh my God. You ever see Zooey Deschanel if she pushes her hair to one side and takes the glasses off? She's like a different fucking girl. She's like slightly not as new girl.
She's not as new. She's not as new girl. I have an acquaintance who has face blindness. She literally can't tell faces apart.
Right.
So she has to tell by other context clues. So like voice or hairstyle or something like that. And like she knows after a while, she knows her friends, but like if total strangers, she has no idea. And if she meets someone and they have glasses on and then she meets them again and they don't, she has no clue that she met them.
Right.
No clue. So also fair point. I also can't recognize anyone if I'm not wearing glasses. So it's true. It's true. I can't see this far in front of my face without my glasses. So that's just a day in the life for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally used to think like everybody's like got to be kidding me with the Superman thing. And then I saw a picture of Zooey Deschanel with a different haircut and no glasses. And I was like, oh, who the fuck is that? I was like, is that Parker Posey?
Right. Exactly. All right. Here's one. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. We're totally not going to cover the rest of these, even in this show. We'll have to do part 3 in the future. So here's one last heist.
Oh boy, yeah. We're putting the old crew back together, and we're gonna pull one last one, right?
Right. Which inevitably turns out to be not the last one, right? That's the entire plot of Ocean's 11,
And
which
Oceans
then
12,
spun off
15, 16, whatever, however many oceans they made.
many oceans.
So many oceans that they made.
So many oceans. Speaking of, did you hear we now have an official extra ocean? That scientists have named the ocean around Antarctica is now its own ocean.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, because otherwise it was like an amalgam of all the other oceans, because they all meet at Antarctica.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. They just
it's now its own ocean.
It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's called the Southern Ocean.
Why they bother with any of this? Because it's not like the fish like give a shit about the borders, like.
They don't have like the demilitarized zone of the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like you like, okay, well, you stay here. This is the ocean. You live in the Pacific Ocean, and that's that, right? Like, they go where they fucking want to go.
They can totally go wherever they want. But of course, another one on that list was The Italian Job. There are many examples. In fact, I would include the movie Solo, the Star Wars movie Solo, because it was what's his name? Woody Harrelson's character. Yeah. That was like, I've been out of a life of crime, and then suddenly he's doing a heist with.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one last heist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, you know what? One last heist reminds me of. This is another trope. The cop who's like a day away from retirement, and he catches a bullet that last day, right?
Yep.
That's always he's like always on. He gets pulled. Like, I'll tell you what, if I was a cop and it was my day before retirement, I would take it fucking like, I don't care what went on. Somebody could come in there and throw like the biggest case of your life in front of you. I'd be like, dude, like, take that over to Johnny. I don't give a shit. All I'm gonna do is get taken out to lunch today, and I'm gonna phone it in, and I'm gonna go home, and that's that.
No, I mean, it's been years since I've quit a job. But my last days at that job was like, just don't care. I am taking up space until I leave.
I mean, if they came in and threw like, hey, we got some proof of who killed Kennedy, I'd be like, not my problem. I'm fucking retiring.
Somebody else can find that out. Take the credit for it. And also, I had Crazy Ex-Girlfriend on this list because they do one last heist.
Okay, one last heist. Sorry, I railroaded your one last heist into.
No, we are. I think they're somewhat related. Although this now, buddy cop also, or the retired cop turns into buddy cop.
Yeah. Sometimes the almost retiring cop is the buddy because he's training some rookie, or what is it? He's a couple weeks from retirement, and the chief like puts the what do you call it? The loose cannon cop. He's like, I need you to ride with him and wrangle him in for a couple weeks till retirement. Tell him what's what. And
right.
And then he gets, of course, because he's with the wild cannon cop, he gets embroiled in intrigue and pulled back into the thick of things, and he winds up with a bullet in his gut on his last day. Right.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you basically almost recounted the entire plot of Lethal Weapon?
Yeah, it's probably that.
And that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole I'm too old for this shit. Like that
was the first one I remember of the retiring cop. But then like since then I've seen it happen like on TV shows and stuff. It's always like the cop that's like 2 days from retirement that winds up like getting involved in something and then getting shot, and it's just man, although in all fairness, he would retire. This is a true story. You retire and 2 weeks later you're dead anyway because people don't know how to retire. I think like they don't know what to do with themselves.
No, that is true. That is very true. No,
because I could give a hang, but I won't retire either.
To one degree or another, I essentially retired in 2012. I just work for myself now, so
that's fair.
I'm all about that. So two of my other favorite examples of buddy cop, though, are Hot Fuzz, which is it's the second movie in the Coronado trilogy by Nick Frost and what's his name?
Yeah,
Simon Pegg.
Hot Fuzz was really good. I did like that one. I
and It's pretty funny. I like. It's better than Cats. My other favorites, which is a classic, and I need to rewatch it. I keep telling myself I have to rewatch it. Dragnet.
Alien Nation.
Oh, Alien Nation is an excellent example.
Thinking and James Caan. That's the buddy cop movie, the end all buddy cop movies right there. one buddy cop is an alien from another planet.
I actually loved Alien Nation. Do you remember the television show version that they did for a while?
I know that there was a thing. Did it have one of the Carradines in it, I think?
Yes. Yeah. I believe so, yes.
I didn't watch it, but they made, it's funny to me how they're able to take a movie that you think is like a one-off interesting storyline for a movie, and they'll turn it into a TV show, and they'll milk it for 5 seasons. They did the same thing with Stargate and a couple other things like that. And I was like,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a perfect example of that.
Right, yeah, because I've never actually watched the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I saw the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I was like, yeah, okay, good. I've seen it. That's that. And,
But the show ran for 7 seasons and is considered iconic.
Yeah, they do that a lot. They'll take that stuff and they'll run with it.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it works.
As I think Alienation, the show, was one of those weird shows that like didn't have a network. It was like a syndicated show that just came on at like 3 a.m. on Saturday night.
Because I thought it was a Sci-Fi Network show.
I think it pre-existed Sci-Fi. I thought it was like, how like Star Trek was back when we were in high school.
It wasn't that old. It came out in the 90s.
I don't know. Well,
it did. I'm gonna look it up for you.
Looking it up. Well, there you go. We don't need to both do it. We'll keep all the bandwidth.
No, I am. I've got more bandwidth. TV show. Let's see. When did that air? It started in 1989. 89. And it aired on Fox originally.
Okay.
Yeah. And it didn't. I don't think it lasted that long, to be honest.
It didn't seem like it'd be the kind of thing that would work in that sort of like, I don't know. I felt like the movie was good. I like the concept, but there's no point in.
Actually, it only came out a year after the movie did, so they tried, but it was it did not. It only lasted 22 episodes. Well,
I wasn't singing the praises of the show. I was just saying it's a good movie.
Hey, I liked the show. So
the movie's got James Caan and Mandy Patinkin, who are both great actors in it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know. The show had David Carradine's son or something, and I don't know who the hell else, and I don't care. I'm sorry, I missed you. Put Doug's
yes
comment up there. I was reading it.
So yes, every network had the Sci-Fi in the early 90s.
Yeah.
They all wanted to get in on that action. Or WB, yes.
Yeah.
I would classify that because I think Buddy Cop eventually kind of turned into just like buddy, like general buddy. And one of the ones that it's the best and worst example because it was a show called Hell on Wheels. And the very first season was amazing. It was incredible. It's like it is a Western. It starred, I don't know, all kinds of people that I can't remember because I've had too many beers already. And it was really, really good. And the end of the first season, they could have wrapped it up. It was a great show, and it ended like that was it. That would have been a fine story. We could end it right here. But then they brought it back, and all of a sudden, it was the 2 main characters just like buddy cop through the Wild West. It was really weird. Like it just got dumb after that. One of them was Common, was one of the actors, and then who played Anson Mount. So it was Common and Anson Mount, and it was terrible at that point.
Okay,
but it was just I couldn't stop watching. I will take your word for that, Doug. I will simply take your word for that.
I've never heard of that in my life, but
me neither, and I don't know that I wanted to.
No.
All right, here's a good trope. Here's a great trope that fits in with the nerdy girl that takes off her glasses and is suddenly hot. Hot wife, ugly husband.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, made most famous by Kevin Can Wait.
What's Kevin Can Wait?
It's a bad sitcom where who's that guy that was in Mall Cop?
He was also he was King of Queens also, which was the same thing.
Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah, dumpy guy, hot wife. Yeah, and it's funny. I actually looked him up one time. I think I was curious whether he actually had a hot wife in real life, because in movies and stuff he always has himself with a really hot wife, and I was curious if I don't remember what the answer to the question was, though, whether he did or didn't have a hot wife. But I remember thinking, like, Kevin James sure likes to portray himself as being able to score out of his league, on the TV shows.
Right.
Because that is always weird. It's especially weird when, like, I guess it wouldn't be weird if the guy brought something else to the table, right? Like if you felt like, okay, yeah, but he's really smart, or he's like really funny or whatever, but he's always just an asshole, right?
Right.
He's just a dumb asshole who has a wife that's way the fuck out of his league.
Who's literally, for the most part, just intended to be like eye candy for the show. Like she's not always written with substance, and she's like a nag and all of these things.
Yeah, the same thing. I guess it was like the Married with Children was kind of like that too, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit on its head, but yes,
I guess sure. A little bit. I mean, Ed O'Neill's actually like he's a mildly attractive guy, but he played such a rake in the show that he came off, not as attractive as like I like him on the other show. He was the Modern Family.
Right.
He's actually likable on that. And you can kind of see, and then also he's playing like an older, successful man with a lot of money, so you can understand. Okay, he that's how he scored this hot wife, right? Like he's bringing something to the table,
right? Well, and Katie Sagal is an incredible actor, and she's gorgeous. But as Peggy, she was entirely a trope. Like that's all she was.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was just there to nag him and be a pain in the ass. Although I think as a viewer. And I'll be honest, I hated that show. I like loathed that show because I thought it was so lowest common denominator. Like the characters weren't fleshed out. And I hate a lot of shit that comes on Fox for that reason, because they run a lot of that kind of thing where the characters are so they're so tropey, honestly, that they're not that they're not developed, and I don't have any love for them. I mean, at the same time, they also run some shows sometimes where you're like, wow, that's brilliant. Like, because I fucking loved Raising Hope, which that was about a family of white trash who were just like lovable as fuck, because
right.
In spite of their like bad taste and their lack of intelligence, they had redeeming qualities. They were loving, they genuinely loved each other. I mean, the couple, and then also the whole family, like everybody seemed to like really care about each other and just trying to persevere over whatever hardships they had. So it was like, like that one was like the opposite, because they were redeeming care. And I felt like King of the Hill was like that. Like at the time that came out, oh my God, like those were the most real characters on TV, even though it was a fucking cartoon, right?
Right.
Because if you grew up in the South, you were like, oh shit, I know those people. Those are real people.
Exactly.
But
so apparently there's a new show that I cannot watch because it's on a network I do not have access to. And I can't remember what network it's on, but it's called Kevin Can Fuck Himself. And it stars Annie, what's her name, who played Alexis on Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
And she is apparently like, and all I know about this, because I can't watch it because I don't have, eventually, hopefully it'll end up in some other something. Well, she starts out as the hot wife, and then like she starts to realize the trope,
oh, okay. That sounds kind of funny.
Yes.
I would watch that. That sounds good.
It does sound funny, and I can't wait until it's available on a streaming service I have access to.
Okay.
So, hopefully we will at some point. Yes, Kevin Can Fuck Himself. So I believe it's stylized, right? It's like Kevin Can F * CK himself. But,
okay. I mean, it depends on what network it's on, because,
True, but all their promotional information is censored.
It's on HBO. They don't care. Like, they can call it that.
Right. Okay, we do only have a couple of minutes, and we are not going to get to everything again, but we'll get most of them. So here's one that I think can be summed up in one character, One, which I guess technically doesn't make it a trope, except that it is in and of itself. The eccentric genius, which I think can be summed up entirely by Sherlock Holmes.
He's the eccentric genius?
I think
not Doc Brown. Not
well, I mean, there's that too, right? But Sherlock Holmes, I think, is the epitome of the eccentric genius.
Okay. Yeah, when you said it, the first thing I thought was like I thought you meant mad scientist.
Well, that's also, I mean, that's its own trope, right?
Yeah.
An eccentric genius, like the old movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer. I mean, he was a college student who was an eccentric genius. By the way, Kevin Can Fuck Himself is on AMC Plus.
Oh. Does that not dump to Hulu?
No, AMC does not. You have to buy AMC Plus separate.
Doug thought Doc Brown also.
Can we vote? I don't know that it matters, right? Because certainly Sherlock Holmes is the grandfather of this trope.
All right.
I mean, you can't say other than Doc Brown is a time traveler, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle created Sherlock Holmes many decades ago.
Okay, yeah. I guess there's that. I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I don't know. Sure, I'll give it to you. Whatever.
Sure, but I think Mad Scientist is its own version of that trope as well. Because all these tropes blend together. All right, so we are officially getting close to out of time, and I know that you have things that are extra today.
Yeah. I was going to talk about something extra today, and this was based on. Well, they always are based on personal experience, because that's what I get mad about. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about microwave ovens, and microwave food, because they're awful. They're just awful. First off, microwave ovens are awful, because they never cook anything thoroughly. Like, the whole idea is it's supposed to save me time, right? So I put it in there for 5 minutes. Oh, it's still cold in the middle. I put it back in for another 2 minutes. Oh, it's still cold in the middle. I stir it around. I put it back in there for another 2 minutes. Oh, it's still something's wrong with At this point, I could have cooked it on the stovetop and it'd have been warm. That's where I'm at with that nonsense. Also, I feel like they make you impatient. And me and Laura were talking about this before the show. She's currently living without a microwave oven in her life. And I have certainly had years where I went without one in my life. And I don't know that I really suffered for not having one. I mean, they're good for a couple of things, really. But for the most part, like, to hell with them. They don't cook very well. Like, and then on top of that, the food that's made for microwave ovens is lousy food that doesn't, I don't know. Yeah, it just it's like today. So I was making my lunch today, and I had the experience I just spoke of, where I cooked it, and then I had to cook it again, and then I had to cook it again, and I had to cook it again, and then finally it was hot, and I went back and sat down at my desk, and I started to eat it, and it was just like the most bland, like, ugh. I was like, what the fuck is it? Like, I ended up, honestly, I took about 4 bites of my food, and I threw it in the trash. I was like, the hell with this. And I just ended up eating a handful of peanuts because I was like, this is not flavorful, and I'm not gonna waste my caloric intake on this nonsense because it's awful.
Right? I can eat something else later and it'll be better.
Yeah.
No, so what we did instead was we invested in a toaster oven, and that's literally the best investment. Like,
toaster oven's way better because you can cook more shit in a toaster oven than you can in a microwave.
And I'll never get a pop-up toaster again in my life. Like, I don't need one because this thing is magic.
I do like a pop-up toaster myself, but I understand. To me, they're apples and oranges, those two things. But that's a whole other thing.
I can make the hell out of some toast in a toaster oven.
Okay, well, I didn't come here to talk about toaster ovens. I was complaining about microwaves, and that's what I'm talking about today. If you got a microwave, it's a piece of shit. And if you're making microwave food, it's shitty. That's all I got to say about all that stuff. All right.
That is, I happen to agree with you. I do not like microwave ovens. I do. I do remember getting the very first microwave oven, our very first. Like I remember that day where my family installed the microwave oven in our house.
Oh, it was a big hooping deal back in the 80s when you got the microwave oven. Yeah, I remember that too. But you found out fairly shortly afterwards that everything that came out of it was subpar.
Well, and you also have that thing like, so you've got, it's a matter of degrees, right? You cook something, it's still cold. You cook it, it's still cold. You cook it, it's still cold. You cook it, now it's inedible.
Yeah, now it's either molten lava hot, or it's been cooked to the point where it's changed the structural integrity of it. Like now it's chewy or something. It's like taking on some quality that makes you not want it. You know
exactly.
So, and that's the thing, is there's always this fine line. Like, you know, like you're cooking the thing and you're always trying to, like, you want to cook it the least amount of time you need to, right? Because to go over is to fuck up your food royally. You know, it's going to come out and it's going to be all rubbery or something. And you're like, I don't want it to be rubbery. So I'm just going to put it in for 45 seconds. And then you like get it and you're like, oh, that's perfect. And then you get in the middle and you're like, it's still cold, you bastard. You know?
There have been many microwave meals where I got to that place. It was fine. And then suddenly cold in the middle. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just finishing this.
Oh, oftentimes, I mean, if I've already sat back down at my desk and most of it's been warm, I'll just finish it with the cold middle. And I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Whatever. No, I'd rather use an oven, toaster oven, or stovetop any day.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of stovetop. I got a griddle now, and I cook everything on the griddle.
Yes. All right. It is time. We are done. I did look it up. Next week, we have been promising this show for a while. Snacks. We keep kicking that can down the road because we have other things we end up wanting to do, but it is officially on next week.
Snacks. Okay.
Snacks. So be thinking about snacks. All right. So will you take us away?
Yeah. Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie. The opinions of Bill are those of his alone, unless Laura shook her head in agreement, in which case I guess they agreed on it, and vice versa. None of these opinions are the opinions of our sponsors, who don't pay us a dime, who we're just like throwing a bone to right now. But if you'd like to sponsor us, feel free to reach out. You can email us or reach us through one of our other various forms of communication here. If you say anything about today's show, be sure to hashtag us, Opinion Gang, and be sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, and, you know, leave your comments for later. If you have show ideas or you just have general questions, sometimes we do mailbag, so you can do that. And otherwise, we'll see you the same time next week.
Yes, and we will be live and in person next week unless something weird happens. But
hopefully,
so, providing that does not happen. All right, everybody, we will see you in a week. Bye.
Yep.